My name is Katie Williams, and this is my media artifact on the documentary Seaspiracy. Seaspiracy is an expository documentary directed by Australian filmmaker Ali Tabrizi and his wife Lucy Tabrizi. The original Netflix documentary film pursues the exploitation of the world's fishing companies and their unethical practices. Released in March 2021, it shows the very real global overfishing problems that we are facing right now, and the significance of how we need to act or kill our beautiful planet altogether. Inspired by historian Sir David Attenborough's work, and alongside Kip Anderson, producer of expository documentary Cowspiracy, which is along the same lines of Seaspiracy, but about the livestock industry. Seaspiracy preaches the same lies of sustainability being produced by food companies and to open our eyes to the impending collapse of our ecosystems. This documentary is voiced over by Ali Tabrizi and has an abundant mix of actual and archival footage paired with direct interviews to convey the intended message clearly. The documentary. The documentary begins by throwing compelling facts at the viewer about the effects of plastic on marine life. Stock images and footage of dolphins, whales, and seals are shown washed up with their stomachs filled with plastic. They use imagery of trending hashtags on social media, such as the abundance of the use of the hashtag plastic-free, or also the use of hashtag plastic pollution on sites such as Twitter and Instagram alike. They immediately begin to push the statement theme of, if our oceans die, so do we, which is present throughout the documentary to drill into its viewers' heads that this is an important fact that needs to be recognized. The documentary draws to the very real 1.6 square million kilometers of plastic island floating on our ocean and estimates that it weighs 150 million tons. The plastic affecting our oceans is the cause of one of the documentary's missions to stop the use of single-use plastics and find better, more ecosystem-friendly alternatives to use in its stead. The documentary goes on to estimate and accuse that 60% of caught wild fish were found to contain microplastics in their stomachs, and that fishing companies are majorly responsible, with over 70% of the ocean's plastic being discarded fishing gear as a result of the mass angling. Another issue the documentary brings light on is the overfishing of marine predators such as whales, dolphins, and sharks. Specifically in Taiji, Japan, the worst offender for whaling, even with the practice being banned since 1986. Specialists in marine conservation and activists are interviewed to shed light on the situation and explain that wiping out predators will disrupt our food chain and that it will ultimately collapse with uncontrollable populations or even a lack thereof. What they mean by this is that sharks eat big fish and fish eat small fish. If you take away the sharks, the big fish will eat all the small fish, and so on and so forth until there's nothing left. Shark activist Paul Gelder preaches for people to not be afraid of sharks and to stop their mass slaughter, even after he was attacked by a shark himself. The footage of the shark attack is played, and they explain that over 90% of large shark species have been wiped out at this point. Each fact is given backed by highlighted images of scientific articles or news sites, such as Metro or the BBC, to support their arguments and convince the viewer that the problems Tabrizi is addressing are all true. The facts on the bottom can also all be found on the official Seaspiracy website, such as fishing has wiped out 90% of the world's large fish. Fishing is the greatest threat to marine wildlife. 300,000 dolphins, whales, and porpoises are killed by fishing operations per year. Fishing kills 30,000 sharks every hour. These are also shown in the documentary. Extinction. Due to the overfishing, the forthcoming extinction of marine species and seabirds is becoming ever more clear. The film states that with the declining predator species, the seabirds are disappearing in tow. As a result, the documentary claims that a decline of 70% has appeared in seabirds. This is due to a lack of predators as they herd large schools of fish and the seabirds take advantage of their feed. Obviously, now they cannot take advantage of them as much because the sharks have gone, meaning that many of the seabird populations are also dying off. It is now becoming more and more obvious that it is not only sea life that is being affected by the damage of overfishing. Sustainable fishing. Throughout the documentary, Seaspiracy attempts to organize and interview multiple charities who are meant to be supporting the use of sustainable fishing practices. The program interviews Carmenu Vella, now former European Commissioner of Fishing and Maritime Affairs. The commissioner is grilled on the use of sustainable fishing, and as admitted by other interviewees in the documentary, he explains that there is no such thing as a sustainable fishing practice. He also says that there has never officially been one put into place, as they can't actually monitor it. There is no way of guaranteeing that food companies with sustainable badges are using ethical practices due to this. One of the problems revolving around being unable to guarantee is that there are little to no observers to view the actual practices taking place. These are the people who will make sure that the companies are being ethical with their fishing practices. Many observers go missing or are even killed doing their jobs when they uncover unethical practices in the industry. The fishing industry is very corrupt, and this is a well-known fact. There are many cases of people going missing, or even having their family killed due to their job. Specialists such as Professor Chris Langdon are also interviewed. He estimates that 90% of all reefs will be dead by 2050. Oceanographer for the National Geographic, Dr. Sylvia Earle, explains that if we catch too many fish in this century, then there will be no more to catch in the next. The documentary claims that the state of our marine ecosystems are a huge impact on global warming, and that the fishing companies are destroying the world faster than deforestation. Slavery and theft. Slavery in the fishing industry is a huge epidemic that has been pushed under the rug for years. Several survivors of the industry in Thailand came forward for confidential interviews where their faces had been blacked out and their identities had been hidden. The stories were played out on screen in a method of animated dramatization of brutal captains abusing crew or dead bodies being thrown overboard with no care. There are even reports that some bodies were being kept in freezers until they could be rid of. They explain the fear of the human trafficking situation and how they are seen as worthless and could be killed and have it covered up easily. Their families would be told that they were lost at sea and that would be it. There would be no more questions asked. Seaspiracy sheds light of the horrors in the industry, not just against fish, but against humans too. The documentary goes on to the topic of infestation, with Thai fishing boats invading Liberian fishing grounds, causing them to go hungry with little to eat. They claim that the lack of fish caused hungry people to divulge into bushmeat, which in hand played a huge part in the Ebola epidemic. The documentary actually also shows a clip of Liberian fishing boat, a tiny Liberian fishing boat with two men on it that come up to a huge fishing trawler, and they are begging for food because they are so hungry and they want to feed their families. Alternatives. The documentary, with the help of physician Dr. Michael Greger and Dr. Joan Hightower, explains that eating fish now does more harm than good as they are contaminated with toxins such as mercury, polychlorinated biphenyls, or PCBs, and pesticide residues. The documentary seems to try and shock its viewer into no longer eating fish and has an accusatory tone to those who do. Seaspiracy also sheds light on the alternatives to eating fish, such as a company the documentary praises called New Wave Foods. The company specializes in creating vegan fish alternatives for shrimp that are created with ocean algae and other marine plants. They claim that it tastes the same because of the marine plants that they use instead of the fish. The impact of Seaspiracy. Seaspiracy became Netflix's most watched documentary series within its first week of release and gained significant traction on social media. Many people have praised the documentary since its release, and a quick search of hashtag Seaspiracy on Twitter still shows a unique amount of support months later. As you can see, on the right, there are people still praising the documentary today. Whoever hasn't watched Seaspiracy on Netflix yet, you definitely should, and many people commemorating that they will not be eating fish anymore or trying to avoid it. Also, many people rooting for the same things, such as no take zone must be established and enforced, avoid eating marine mammals, and governments must stop harmful subsidies. These are the same issues that the documentary pushes. It was a well received documentary that sheds light on important issues that are happening today. Many people agree with the use of distressing footage, such as all of the animal death. There are many pods of whales being slaughtered in this documentary and other animals. And gruesome facts, as the shock factor of the documentary has significantly spread the awareness of its message, and it really pounds it into your head. The significance of Seaspiracy. The documentary really brings light to the mass amounts of damage currently being caused to our oceans, with scientific specialists to back it up. It urges viewers to stop or reduce their consumption of fish. Less demand will mean less supply and hopefully a healthier ocean in return. This really is a matter of life and death, and within the next century, the documentary estimates that we would have killed off the most important piece of our ecosystem, which is the ocean. It pushes the need to act now and to be part of the change to save our planet, so that we can create a harmony between humans and our ecosystems. The documentary is purposely distressing to push their point of importance. The documentary's goal is to promote the disuse of single-use plastic, shed light on the overfishing epidemic and its ethicalities, and to ultimately help save our world. Seaspiracy has a huge significance in spreading the awareness of our dying planet and the cause that we should all be taking in trying to save it. They recommend the use of reducing fish consumption and your use of single-use plastics if you would like to help out the cause. But ultimately, it will be up to the companies responsible for all the damage that they have already done who need to change their ways for a significant impact on our world.